It's a new year. It's time to stop making tight beats. They're destroying the producer community. They're terrible. They're killing creativity and blah, blah, blah. Here we go again with that bullshit. We're entering 2024, and it's that time of year when producers take to social media to post their hot takes about what the producer community should leave in the previous year. I've seen producers say, let's leave things like using loops and buying sample packs in 2023. But there has been resounding support by both internet trolls and legendary producers to abandon those dirty, filthy, uncreative, baby killing, puppy stomping, tire slashing, clean towel muddying type beats. Ugh, type beats, man. I swear. Actually, I used to hate type beats. I was totally against them. And then I stopped hating type beats and I bought a house and a car and health insurance. But who cares about my experience? I'm just an industry plan or whatever they're calling me this week. Now, ultimately, I think people just believe that a type beat is another term for a remake. I upload soulful type beats. Am I copying somebody named Soulful? Now, realistically, we all have influence, of course. When we hear the term soulful type beat, we can imagine it will have a certain classic, organic feel to it, but we can't really predict the tempo or the chord voicings or the instruments used or the key or the particular drum style. And realistically, we couldn't predict what a Drake type beat would sound like necessarily. Not until we hear it. It could be 130 beats per minute with house kicks, or it could be 94 beats per minute with a New Orleans bounce influence, or it could be whatever the hell Drake's gonna come out with in 2024. We don't know. Type beats are SEO. As the great Curtis King wrote in 2018, like many others on the outside looking in at this industry, I was certainly passing judgment from my ivory tower. This is resonating with me. I confused their marketing strategy for maximum visibility with a desperate clickbaity plea for attention and sales. I thought that a type beat was an amateur's indirect attempt at copying a more popular producer's style because they lacked their own originality. I thought this was how younger producers were trying to get their foot in the game, although I'm sure that there were many producers at the time that did match my suspicions. They didn't represent why the most successful producers in the beat leasing realm utilized this strategy. To the elite beat leasing producers, the market utilization of type beats was no different than a blogger or YouTuber's marketing tools. What did they all have in common? The use of high-ranking search terms through a process called search engine optimization, SEO. This is from a DJ Booth article from 2018. It just so happens that type beats is the term that producers use to label their beats because that's the language rappers have used for a long time to describe the tracks that they've wanted, and it's stuck. How long has this been around? Google Trends only goes back to 2004, so we can see type beat searches all the way back in 2004. Obviously, the interest in that particular search term has increased quite a bit. So it's been around for a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, but producers are still producing and making money and innovating. And a lot of artists use type beats. I mean, of course they do. But even, big legitimate artists that people who criticize type beats would love to work with. J. Cole, for example, he recorded he used to sell beats online. And earlier this year in 2023, he recorded a track called Procrastination to a J. Cole type beat. I know there was a conspiracy theory about the guy that made it, Batman. It's not true. Batman reached out to me many years ago. He's not some industry plant. I don't know why this comes up all the time. But yeah, J. Cole wrote a song over a J. Cole type beat he found on YouTube. How did he find J. Cole type beat? Because he searched for it. Because even J. Cole is aware of how rappers find beats in today's music business landscape. Meek Mill did the same thing with one of Othello's beats. And a lot of artists who aren't yet famous or they're on the rise and they eventually blow up, from Designer to A$AP Rocky to Lil Nas X, were and continue to get their beats online. Polo G used one of my type beats from YouTube. It wasn't labeled as a Polo type beat. He was searching for other terms, but he found it. I've actually never met, I'm not saying they don't exist, I've never met a single critic of type beats who understood SEO. They're generally industry producers who have a lot of experience with the traditional way of getting beats placed. They don't make their money online working with unsigned artists, and they just are judging what they don't understand based on their own experiences and their own framework. And to them, type beats are unoriginal copies that threaten the creativity of music production. There's a narrative, the narrative that you will lose your creativity if you make type beats is based on ignorance as to what type beats actually are. And I used to feel the same way about the type beats label until I met producers who had amazing beats and used the type beats level. And I'm talking about meeting them in person. Dylan Graham, Dream Life, Beat Demons. They make great beats. They have their own style. They have a distinct sound and they understand marketing. And as a result, I'm not even going to tell you the type of numbers they were talking, but it opened my eyes. This was years ago. That's when I actually got serious about beat leasing and marketing myself. I was still on the fence, not gonna lie. And what they did was they just described the moods of their beats with the type beat label. Sometimes they use artist names, because let's be honest, producers who produce for artists almost always have artists in mind when they're making a beat, or at least after they make the beat. If you're a producer that has access to certain artists, if you make 5 beats in a day, maybe 2 of those beats you can hear one of those artists on, the other 3 you can hear some of the other artists you work on. I mean, I feel like that's part of producing. When Ted Park comes through to the studio, I know which beats are going to sound good for him. That's what I'm going to play from. Sometimes we want to challenge ourselves, challenge each other, but there are still certain foundational elements that I know he's going to need. I mean, the beats aren't going to be atonal because he's sings. They're going to have to be in his range. I mean, you'd be crazy to jump into a studio with Nas, set your DAW's tempo to 60 beats per minute, start programming some double time house kicks with loud aggressive synth leads, playing crazy major chords that just pluck their way into the depths of your eardrums. That would be nuts. Hit Boy makes albums with Nas and he knows how to produce for Nas. They're making some of the most amazing music I've heard Nas come out with, and that's saying a lot. And good producers make music with intention. They don't just make a beat and say, yeah, no one's gonna rap on this. I can't describe this beat in terms of any sort of mood, sound, style, tempo, or era. I mean, unless they've invented an entirely new genre, which they haven't. They have an idea who would sound good on a particular track. And you don't have to invent a new genre just to make classic music. Aren't type beats just copies of existing beats? If you want them to be, yeah, sure. Look, if you're gonna steal other people's ideas, you're gonna steal other people's ideas. The term type beats itself has nothing to do with theft. Anything can be a type beat. Experimental type beat. Weird type beat. These are actually real viable YouTube keywords that I've researched. You can research them yourselves. So if you don't get it by now, let's go back. MC Shan, legendary MC, dropped a song called Beat Biter after he claims Rick Rubin stole a beat from him in 1985. There were no type beats in 1985. 1985. People steal ideas, people remake beats, people bite styles, people try to copy trends. That's not what a type beat is. A type beat is an SEO strategy. I stumbled on this Reddit post. Where do I find beats outside of the type beat YouTube black hole? One of the first comments, this is from 2 years ago. Honestly, I found some good type beat artists who completely have their own style, but just use type beats as marketing. If one of the type beats you hear catches your ear, try checking out more from the artist instead of tunneling on the type beat part. They start sharing a lot of different names of producers that they like working with or whose beats they think are unique. Really productive conversation, in my opinion. So if you're a biter, that's on you. That has nothing to do with Othello Beats posting a type beat. I honestly don't understand some of the deep anger towards type beats that some people harbor, because the type beat strategy has created an entire economy of producers and rappers and has produced a global middle class where I would guess thousands of beat makers make a full or part-time living off of licensing beats online. That's great. I mean, there's a story about the Serbian hip-hop producer who produced Cardi B's Up, and that was a hit, but it wouldn't have happened if this 25-year-old from Serbia didn't post beats to the internet. He gets contacted by Quavo from the Migos on Instagram asking for beats, and the reason Quavo even knew his beats existed was because he was posting them on YouTube, and he specifically asked for that type of beat, hard piano and bass. So you could post a hard piano bass type beat to YouTube. I don't know, that seems like a positive story, seeing another producer win. And I don't think this story could have happened before the internet, not on that global scale. And seeing producers find ways to build their careers on their own terms, learn business, take ownership of their music, learn entrepreneurialism, learn the music business through experience, not by working with labels and getting screwed over and having to always work through lawyers and managers. I feel like those are good things. But I also think some producers are threatened by it. But that's between them and their creator. Now let's get into this Twitter conversation. I want to end on an encouraging and practical note for those of you who are aspiring online beat sellers. I had an exchange, and again, this is someone who doesn't actually sell beats online. He's a Grammy Award winning artist, Daniel Humphreys, but he says, I'm all for type beats, but doesn't encourage less creativity. I already addressed the creativity part, but let's talk about this other part. Maybe somebody wants to make a Method Man type beat, but knowing that that would get less clicks, they feel like they have to make a Drake type beat or whatever is current. Again, that's on you. If you feel like you have to make beats that your heart isn't in, I've already said a million times, if what you're making isn't enjoyable and authentic to you, it's gonna fail. But a lot of producers, and I was one of them when I first started, a lot of producers feel as though they have to make the trending sound of beat in order to actually succeed in the online beat leasing marketplace. In that scenario, a producer may resort to copying other beats just to fit into whatever sound they're trying to achieve, because it's a money play. They want to make money. They want to attract customers with money instead of just making the beats that come naturally to them. So let's see what happens. Drake type beat, right? The top ranking videos are pretty recent. That means there's a lot of competition. There are a lot of people trying to knock each other off of that #1 position. And honestly, every time I search Drake type beat, and I only do this a couple times a year just to see what's going on, I see different producers in the top 10 first page. It used to be, who was the producer that used to be #1? Seeds, I think, and I don't even see him on the first page anymore. So Drake type beat obviously is heavily searched. It's incredibly competitive, and I'm sure you could make decent money if you rank on the first page as a Drake type beat. But how about Method Man type beat, right? Because the narrative is that Method Man type beats aren't commercially viable. People aren't really searching for these, so they'll probably have a low view count, except they don't. So someone who posted 2 months ago has 140,000 views on a single beat. That's pretty good. And honestly, looking at all this, just in the top, let's look at the top 5 Method Man type beats that come up. Out of all of these, only one of them is new. One of them is from 2 months ago. The others are from either years ago or about a year ago, 7 months. What that suggests to me is that there are people searching for these beats, but it's an unfilled niche. There aren't that many producers competing for that space. That means if you decide that Method Man would sound great on the beats that you make, and you have 50 of those beats sitting on your hard drive, upload 3 of them a week, and you'll have infinitely more success doing that than you would trying to redefine your style and make Drake type beats that are good enough to climb to the top after clawing your way past all of the other competition, the fierce competition, fighting for that first page on the Drake type beat keyword niche. Now, there are 2 schools of thought. One of them is what I just described, that you want to find an unfilled niche and fill it with your content. Or some people would say, find a highly competitive keyword like Drake type beat and fight your way to the top. Just find a way to compete, find a way to win. But the choice is yours. I've seen producers use either strategy and win off those strategies. And again, you don't have to use an artist name in your type beats. Maybe that's what turns people off, but like, look, weird experimental type beat, users for calming type beat. Wow, these ones are getting millions of views. I just feel like if you're a producer and you play into this myth that you have to copy existing trendy beat styles to compete in the online beat selling marketplace, you're just going to play into the narrative that type beats promote unoriginality. So whatever you choose to do, the fact is, #1, there are a ton of type beat niches out there, and it's an ever expanding world of sounds and SEO. And rappers are not going to stop using type beat keywords to search for tracks anytime soon. So find your space, find your system, find your strategy within this marketplace. And one of the best ways to make your beats accessible to the average artist who is ready to buy beats is to use type beats SEO keywords. Unless you're going to let social media shame you out of making a living. I'm personally glad that I didn't, and I'm glad that I got over my own hangups about the type beat SEO strategy. My life would be very different if I had clung to that belief. Anyway, Happy New Year. Much success to you in 2024 and beyond. Peace.